Hello everyone and welcome to the Pitskill.io Porsche 935 and BMW M2 Multiclass. Tonight is round 6 of the season and we are here at Silverstone. A nice wide racetrack which should make the 935s happy after the chaotic race that we had at Bathurst last week. As we have just a couple of minutes remaining of our Porsche qualifying before the BMWs will take to the track. It is Matthew Parry who is setting the pace at the moment, followed by our championship leader Rhys Tattersall. And then we have Ben Lopard, John Sawyer and Jeremy Thomas rounding out top 5. And taking a look at our standings in the GT2s is Rhys Tattersall, who currently leads the way ahead of Ben Lopard, Balazs Faher and Matthew Parry in P4 at the moment, Jeremy Thomas in P5. Just right, P6, with Flenas Nitro, Samuel Peltari, Thomas Pirello and Christopher Scapas rounding out the top 10. And Matthew Parry finishing his session, pulling off of the racing circuit. And our Porsches now taking to the track. Sorry, our BMW is now taking to the track, I should say. Oh, very soon it's taken to the track. Apologies. Getting slightly confused with the timings there as Rhys Tattersall comes across the line for the... Sorry, not across the line. I'm remembering the wrong version of this track. Right. Oh, yes. Did just cross over. He is on to his final flying lap of the session. And looking to find 6.5 tenths over Matthew Parry. And of the Porsches still out on track, we're seeing improvements from Rodes Partes, currently 2.4 seconds down from our race leader, but with a few cars ahead on the timings. A decent lap here, keep it tidy on the exit and around the final corner. Decent amount of improvement here for Partes, should see them jump well up the order. And up to P7 goes Partes. Very great final lap. As we check back in with Rhys Tattersall, who's now coming down the long straight. In through Luffield. And then the exit of Woodcut, and we'll see, has he got what it takes to get close? Matthew Parry using all of the circuit on the exit, but I don't think it's quite there. Matthew Parry with the pace over Rhys Tattersall. And that is a solid qualifying time there from Mr. Matthew Parry. We check to see who is our lead to be on the track. That is the 116 of Anthony Victor Chappelle. who will take us on our first flying lap with the TCX class. While he does so, we'll take a quick look at our standings, and it is Jan Ilatalo who is leading the way, 2 points ahead of Rostet Saboda, with Leon Bromfield and Jakub Borovic fighting over that final podium position in the championship. Jules Flynn, Anthony Victor Chappelle, Marco Lorenzo, Atta Kalaskan, Christopher Alberg and Lolo Nitro round out the top 10. As we come down the hangar straight and into Stowe, handfuls of understeer there on the first flying lap from Chappelle. It'll take a little bit of time to get the tyres up to temperature. Until then, we can be expecting copious amounts of understeer from these TCX cars. Not much aero to speak of, and with cold tyres, not much grip to speak of. As Chappelle just about keeps it within track limits, as we did hear some of the grass being torn up from the verge. The groundskeeper won't be especially pleased. Chappelle gets on the power, not taking village as wide as they could through the loop. Down into the final sequence of corners on this national circuit here at Silverstone. The long right hander of Luffield onto the gas through Woodcut, and we should see our first time on the board for the BMWs. There's Chappelle with a 217.5, almost matched completely by Flint behind. Borovic going just ahead with a 117.5. Then have fastest time currently set by Jan Ilatalo. The 987 car going very strong here. Actually, absolutely matched by Thomas Solonejo. So the Finns doing well in this TCX class. Absolutely level at the moment. And Ilatalo taking class pole position provisionally, purely due to being the first one to get that time. We then have Atta Kalaskan riding the white line down into Stowe, currently P3 in class. But drivers up and down the order finding a pace here, but with over a second separating our top two to P3 driver Kalaskan, there's plenty to be found for the rest of our field out there. With Chappelle being the driver who's finding the most on this particular lap. Going in to Village Corner. Again, not running all the way to the apex. More time to be found there if Chappelle can make use of the entirety of the track. And for a solid improvement on this lap if they can hold on to it through the remaining few corners. Nice and wide through Luffield. And with a good run to the line, it would be a decent improvement here for Chappelle up to P3. But it is Thomas Solonejo who we're going to check in with now, who jumps ahead of Ilatalo. Provisional pole position 115.9, first of our TCX drivers into the 15s. And that is a solidly put together lap. You see, as both Sonego and Ilatalo dive onto a new flying lap. See what both of the fastest drivers are capable of. Yeah, Ilatalo, riding the dirt, needs to find 0.3 of a second to get back that top spot. And, well, looking like we could be in for a race here tonight at Silverstone. Ilatalo running wide there at Stone, not quite hooking up the apex and dropping time like nobody's business. But we'll not be seeing an improvement, I don't think, on this lap after that mistake through Stowe. It's just time to check in with the rest of our field. As in P6 in class, we have got Paul Cook and Mikhail Minsky in P22 overall, P7 in class. As Paul Cook returns to the pit lane. Jules Flint, another of our double yellow motorsport drivers, currently sitting at P8. Tommy Dudeka is in P24. With TCX veteran Marco Lorenzon in P25. Championship challenger Rostock Svoboda currently sitting down P26 on a 218.2. Should get to the start finish line before the time runs out and get one more shot at a flying lap, and that is all our top two have for them as well. So now leading Ilatalo around the first sector, currently up on their previous best, but both drivers going strong. And has Svoboda invalidated yet again? Because I am not seeing a valid lap time here for Svoboda. We'll see. They'll carry on this lap, see if they can get themselves up the order to keep their championship charge intact. As Ben Beams, P27. But we will keep our eyes on our top two as they come through into Village and through the loop. As they come into the final few corners. So now they're in too deep. And this is an opportunity here for Ilatalo, although only one corner to find 0.3 of a second is going to be a big ask unless they've made a phenomenal mistake somewhere on a previous lap. But looks like it's going to be pole position for Solonejo, but a solid effort there by Ilatalo. Just 2.5 off at the end. And let's see what can Svoboda put in on their final lap of the session, looking twitchy on the exit of Luffield. Flat to the line and takes P3 on the grid with a solid final effort to the line. As we'll be back shortly as our drivers line themselves up on the grid. We'll be back for tonight's race. And as our drivers line up on the grid, it is Matthew Parry. We'll start this race from pole position. Starting alongside him will be our championship leader, Reese Tattersall, in the number 42 car. In P3 is Ben Lopard, with John Sawyer starting next to him on the grid. Jeremy Thomas is in P5 with Thomas Pirello in that bright yellow car, starting in P6. Balazs Fahey starting P7 in the iridescent unicorn livery, with Irides Partes starting alongside him with a strong final lap, pushing him up into P8. Jesper Swingley is in P9 with Chris Wright in P10. Blair's Nitro in the Linux livery starting in P11, and will be starting alongside Hef Martin. Stupa is in P13 with Bjorn King in P14. And the final of our Porsche runners in tonight's field will be Rhys Burns in P15. Thomas Solanejo will be starting this race in the TCX pole position, and will be starting just a row in front of Jan Vitalo and Wojciech Swoboda, who's currently not moving. Nope, does seem to be okay. I wonder if they just went far too ahead of their box on the formation lap. As in P19 is Anthony Victor Chappelle, that is P4 in class, with Atta Kalaskan in P20. Yahoo Borovic is in P21 with Paul Cook in P22. Karl Minsky is in P23 and Jules Flint in P24. Mindy Decker is weaving about in P25, trying to get some heat into those cold TCX tyres, with Marco Lorenzon in P26. Ben Beams is in P27 with Victor Poda in P28. And finally, in the back of our field in that retro Marlboro livery is Felix Kramaric, rounding out our 29 car grid. And we turn our attention back to the front of the field as we come down the Hamilton Straight of this long formation lap here at Silverstone. There seems to be a habit now of drivers stopping on their formation lap. Not sure if this is a new tyre feature here. As they approach now onto the final sector of this formation lap. These are the drivers we'll be keeping an eye on. Thomas Solanejo and Jan Ilatalo of the TCX field, and Matthew Parry and Reese Tattersall up at the front of our Porsche 935s. The drivers should start to line up 2 by 2 to form up the starting grid for tonight's race. And let's just hope everyone is on their best behaviour as we head down towards Copse Corner for the first time of asking. As the tension rises, we await the green flag. Rhys Tattersall getting in some last minute burnouts to try and get some heat into those rear tyres and give him the advantage he needs on that run down towards turn 1. Let's wait the green flag. Stardust Racing here at Silverstone. Lights go green. And it's a decent start from Rhys Tatzel. Gets alongside Matthew Parry, but for the fast right-hander of Copse, advantage goes the way of Matthew Parry, who holds on to the lead of the Porsche 935 class. And down in the BMWs, Jan Ilatalo has had a decent start up into P16, that's P1, as Svoboda into the pits. I'm not sure what happened there, but Roger Svoboda now down in P29, some 16 seconds off the back of the field. His race has not started the way he would have wanted. Not sure if there's some sort of issue. We did see him stopped on the circuit during the formation lap. But up at the front of the field, it is Matthew Parry leading the way ahead of Rhys Tattersall. And Rhys Tattersall with a good exit from club corner is well in the slipstream of Matthew Parry. 2 wheels in the dirt, and it's almost, well, it is quite a sideways moment for Rhys Tattersall. Puts the wheels out on the dirt on the opposite side of the track and did well to hold on to the position. And now has Ben Lopard all over the back of him. As we have movement and battling down in the TCXs as actually Victor Chappelle dropping 2 positions to Ato Kalaskan and Jakub Borovic. Borovic coming out of the slipstream here on Kalaskan. Looking to the inside, will turn to the outside. But Luffield, will he be able to hang it on around the outside, as that is a very sideways moment for Ato Kalaskan. Gets the car recovered. That is Borovic up and past, and Chappelle too, looking like they're going to try and make their way through on the outside. Paul Cook also looking to get involved in this melee, as they all head into Copse Corner side by side. Paul Cook with a great run on the inside, but it's Ato Kalaskan who holds on to the position now. Chappelle up the inside, isn't going to try and stick a nose in, and it is Kalaskan, Chappelle and Cook who make their way through the corners. And some good battling from our TCX touring cars. The front of the field is Matthew Parry, who continues to lead the way ahead of Rhys Tatzel and Ben Lopard. Then we have the group of John Sawyer and Jeremy Thomas not far behind. Balazs Feher and Thomas Perello hanging on together as well, as Perello seems to be glued to the back of that car of Feher as they come into Village. And a nice wide entry to the loop from Perello. Is he going to try and get a good run down the Wellington Straight? Does seem to have the overspeed on Feher here, but as they get towards terminal speed of the 935, doesn't seem to have the power to get alongside Balazs Feher as they wind their way through onto another lap here at Silverstone. But at the moment, Thomas Perello looking like they've got the pace at the moment. Holding on well to the back of Balazs Feher. Is that a car stationary by the side of the road? I'm not sure who that is. As Balazs Feher sticks a couple of wheels out on the dirt. This could open up an opportunity for Thomas Perello. They come down towards Stowe Corner. And Thomas Perello running very wide. I'm sure that will be one of 3 track cuts that they are allowed to take to their name before the game starts to hand out penalties. There's someone punting the cone off into space. It's back at the front of the field. Rhys Tattersall really wringing the neck of that 935. And is Rhys Tattersall perhaps overdriving the car at this point in the race? We do know these 935s can be hard on their tyres. So there is every chance that this early exuberance from Tattersall could play into the hands of the cars behind if they do a better job of looking after the rubber underneath them. We have seen in previous events drivers opting to change their tyres, so could that be on the mind of Rhys Tattersall? Extra 5 seconds in the pit stop means that they can push flat out the entirety of this race. As battle behind continues, John Sawyer leading this group of Thomas Fahey and Pirello. All these cars within about half a second of each other. There's a tight contest in the midfield of this 935 pack. The cars we saw just going through our camera shot there were this battle of Swingley, Martin and King. This side by side with Thomas Pirello and Balazs Fahey. Oh, as they bump doors coming through Vale, but as they come out of club corner, it is Thomas Pirello ahead of Balazs Fahey to start the 4th lap of this race. Back up at the front, Rhys Tattersall just 0.4 seconds behind Matthew Parry now. As Parry holds the fastest lap of the race with a 1:59.797. And having to give it absolutely everything to keep himself ahead of Rhys Tattersall. As Thomas Pirello and John Sawyer Jeremy Thomas and John Sawyer, I should say, side by side as they come out of left field, and it is Jeremy Thomas who finds himself ahead, and that is P4 now for Thomas. And Sawyer will have to have as much an eye on his rear view mirror as he does ahead of him, as Pirello, Fahey and now Chris Wright rapidly gaining on him, as Pirello is caught rapidly onto the back of John Sawyer. John Sawyer seemingly struggling at this moment in the race. Somewhat of a train starting to form behind. As they come down the hanger straight, and Balazs Fahey throws one around the outside of Thomas Pirello. Will he be able to keep it on the circuit? Not quite. Keeps the position held ahead of Chris Wright, who's going to be looking up the inside. They head through the Vale chicane and into club corner. As top two seemingly in a race of their own, 4.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. As Rhys Tattersall starting to put Matthew Parry under pressure now, getting his nose alongside. As we come through to start another lap in this race, Rhys Tattersall really able to apply the pressure. We did see Parry with phenomenal pace in the qualifying session, has not been able to use that to pull away from Tattersall. And now they approach, I was going to say the back marker traffic, but that is a Porsche who finds themselves considerably out of position. As we head again onto the hangar straight. With the quad of Sawyer, Pirello, Fahey and Wright. Run down towards Stowe Corner. As they snake their way around, just hoping for some sort of error from the car ahead of them. As we've got close racing in our Porsche field. In the BMW field, things slightly more sedate, as our top three each with a 4.5 second gap back to the car behind them. Although we do have battle here between Atakala Scan and Anthony Victor Chappelle, as the Porsche of Nitro tries to pick their way through. Balazs Fahey looking for a way up the inside of Thomas Pirello. The door gets closed on him. As both of our race leaders peel off into the pit lane, both Parry and Tattersall, opting to take the early pit stop before they hit that BMW back marker traffic, and that leaves Ben Lopard to lead this race ahead of Jeremy Thomas, John Sawyer, Thomas Pirello, Balazs Fahey and Chris Wright. As we take a look at the stats for time stopped in the box, there's 26 seconds for Matthew Parry, 28 seconds for Rhys Tattersall, so neither driver's opting to take tyres, but a considerably shorter stop for Matthew Parry. Sees him back out on track some 2 seconds now ahead of Rhys Tattersall, so that round of pit stops working out well for our championship challenger. As Jeremy Thomas currently running P2 in this race, ahead of John Sawyer, Pirello, Fahey and Wright. You see those cars all enter camera shot as they wind their way through Luffield, and that is Sawyer and Sawyer and Wright following Thomas into the pits, but that was a bump of the wall there, and not what you want on your pit entry, as Thomas Pirello and Balazs Fahey continue to do battle out on track. I'm sure these two will be diving off into the pit lane soon. Looking at our pit statistics, you can see only likely Skapas to have made a tyre change in this race, although seemingly a number of tyre changes coming in the TCX class is looking like almost everyone there taking new tyres. Be interesting to see if Advantage does swing the way of those taking tyres in the Porsche class, as Pirello and Fahey picking their way through this traffic, as always the case, has the potential for mishaps and opportunities. As F. Martin now opting to take her pit stop. That's the 14-minute mark of the, or 14 minutes remaining mark of this race. Looking like Chris Wright opting to take tyres has taken an extra few seconds, as has Jeremy Thomas up ahead. With John Sawyer not taking tyres, that gap now at 2.4 seconds as Jeremy Thomas bullies his way up the inside of the BMW, as Pirello and Fahey come nose to tail into the pit lane. Interesting to see who does and does not opt for tyres. As things settle down a little bit in our race, many drivers opting to take this lap as their pit-in lap. Matthew Parry will retake the lead as he comes to pass the pit lane here at the Silverstone National Circuit. As we'll see him jump back up into P1. Rhys Tattersall will retake P2 in this race. And yet to be seen how the rest of our field will filter back out onto the racetrack. The seam is Ben Lopard who will emerge first into P3, with Balazs Fahey, John Sawyer emerging just behind. Jeremy Thomas also entering into this battle as we look to see who is pitted, who is not. So Ben Lopard opting to take brand new tyres, but Balazs Fahey and John Sawyer still running their old tyres. So we'll keep an eye on the lap times from the likes of Fahey, Sawyer and Thomas. Thomas with those new tyres should have a pace advantage, as Fahey running well off circuit. I'm not sure if they'd be considered gaining an advantage with how far off circuit he did have to run, but remains ahead of John Sawyer for now. As Sawyer looks to the inside as we come into Abbey Corner. Balazs Fahey keeping his nose ahead, but as we come down into Village, space given, and Fahey running the pace, running the speed around the outside, keeps the position. And now Jeremy Thomas, the driver, who is running fresh rubber, and oh well, looks like maybe the running side by side through the corner has done more damage than the worn tyres, as Jeremy Thomas picks off 2 in as many corners up into P4 in this race. The new tyres seemingly paying dividends, and I expect to see that driver disappear off into the distance. There's now Rhys Tattersall and Matthew Parry at the head of this field, separated by just 0.8 seconds. Completely in a class of their own in this race now. 11 seconds ahead of Ben Lopard, who is closing that gap, especially with Rhys Tattersall yeeting himself that far off the circuit. But Ben Lopard making good use of these fresh tyres. Be interesting to see if over the next 10 minutes he can start to close up that gap. Yet to see what his or a clean lap would look like from Ben Lopard. We'll keep an eye and see how the laps stack up as Fahir, Sawyer and Pirello. So Thomas Fahir and Sawyer ran onto another lap, and Balazs Fahir all out of sorts. How on earth did he keep hold of that one? Kept hold of the car, did not keep hold of the... What? Spoke too soon, as John Sawyer in his overexcitement at taking the position takes himself off the circuit and gives back P5 to Balazs Fahir. As Ben Lopard comes around, final few corners, we'll see what sort of lap time the driver on new tyres is capable of. And that is a 2:0.7 for Ben Lopard. Last time around, a 2:1.2 from Reece Tattersall. Half a second a lap is not going to cut it with only just over 4 laps, so 5 laps remaining in this race. Ben Lopard not likely to have an opportunity unless those tyres really drop away from our front two. As down in the TCX class, we have Jakub Borovic and Atta Kalaskan side by side as we come down towards Copse Corner. And side by side they remain. Plenty of space given between the pair of them, and that looks like Anthony Victor-Chappelle wanting to get involved in this battle as well, as Borovic placing his car nicely gets himself fully ahead of Kalaskan, and now it's like Kalaskan well off the circuit running wide, and that has allowed Chappelle up too. So in the TCX class it is running Ilatalo P1, P2 is Solonejo, Borovic in P3, P4 is Anthony Victor-Chappelle, and P5 is... Well, what is happening here? As that is a backwards facing Balazs Fahir, who now gets himself back underway. But what has happened to Balazs Fahir? It looked like it was an issue coming out of Club Corner. Oh, just too much of the inside sausage curb. Spins the car around, a kiss of the wall, and that is a big drop down the grid, or down the order for Balazs Fahir, now down in P9. Was running P5 just moments ago, or P4 sorry I should say, just moments ago, as Jesper Swingley and Chris Wright going side by side. And two of these, it seems like it is Chris Wright who is running the fresh rubber at the moment, and seemingly with a grip advantage at this stage in the race at least, as he looks to the outside of Copse, unconventional but forcing Swingley onto a tighter line, as Chris Wright will try and run the speed. Ooh, around the outside, very nearly running into the side of Swingley. Swingley getting very sideways, and now side by side coming through Beckett's into Chapel, and Jesper Swingley getting well out wide, and Chris Wright making the move up into P7. Battle out in front, seemingly dying down. Reece Tattersall now 2.5 back from Matthew Parry. And we have Thomas Pirello catching up to John Sawyer. This is new tyres against old as well. Pirello running that fresh rubber and now all over the back of John Sawyer. Last laps for these two drivers was a 2:0.7 Thomas Pirello a 201.3. John Sawyer, so considerable pace advantage to Pirello at the moment, and looks like John Sawyer knows it as he tries to go defensive on the inside. Pirello throwing run around the outside, just about keeping it on the circuit, and that is move made for Thomas Pirello. Fierce and aggressive racing there, but keeping it completely clean and on the circuit. John Sawyer, though, not looking like he wants to give this one up. Has he got enough of an overlap? No, he does not. As they come through Copse corner, Thomas Pirello, with that move made and on the fresher tyres, should be able to keep John Sawyer at bay for the remainder of this race. Well, we did wonder if pushing early on and those lurid slides we were seeing from Rhys Tattersall might have been costing him, but we see now Matthew Parry well off the circuit, coming through Stowe, but Rhys Tattersall's pace seemingly dropping away a little bit. 2:02 last lap around, with a 2-minute 0.5 from Ben Lopard. It is Lopard who is setting the pace at this point in the race, but not enough time remaining, I don't think, for him to be a challenge to either of the front two in this race. But Jesper Swingley has been able to keep on the back of Chris Wright. We've also got side-by-side battling behind with the recovering Balázs Feher trying to get past Christopus Skapas. As Feher looks to the inside through Abbey, being given plenty of space. As Skapas kicking up the dirt as he runs through Farm, just missing the apex there at Village, and Feher should have a good run here down the Wellington Straight as he gets the car straightened up earlier. Don't quite think it's going to be close enough here, but putting pressure on as we enter into the final minutes of this race. And down in the TCX land, we have gone into team battle between the double yellow motorsports cars of Jakub Borovic and Anthony Victor Chappelle. And this for the final podium position in the TCX. And no team orders here at double yellow motorsport. I'm sure they will be battling hard until the checkered flag. There's Chappelle trying to line up the inside pass, door to door, as they come onto the Wellington Straight. And Chappelle has the inside line for now, but that will turn to the inside for Borovic, who manages to keep themselves ahead. And this is strong battling between the pair of them, with just 2 laps remaining for this pair, as our race leader comes in to the final couple of corners to start the final lap of this race. Now that gap Matthew Parry has over Rhys Tattersall at 3 seconds, and Ben Lopard closing in lap by lap, but it's certainly not going to be enough without some sort of mistake from Rhys Tattersall. John Sawyer also holding on to the back of Thomas Pirello after that pass earlier on in this stint. But John Sawyer having to go the very long way around the BMW, and that will cost him. And a big slide, taking him wide of track limits. As we still have a battle over the final podium spot in the TCX class. It is Chappelle versus Borovic, as Hef Martin has not taken her mandatory pit stop in this race and is currently running plumb last anyway. Not been a great race for Hef Martin in the Porsches. Jesper Swingley all over the back of Chris Wright as they head on to their final lap of the race. And new tyres there for Chris Wright, perhaps losing their advantage as we get into the end of the race. 30 minutes in, 15 minutes in, doesn't seem to be much in it in terms of tyre life for that. As Antonovic Chappelle and Jakub Borovic come to cross the line. They are ahead on track of this man right here, Matthew Parry, who at the end of this second stint has really shown some phenomenal pace. Comes across the line to take the win here by 5.5 seconds ahead of Reese Tatzel, who will take P2 here at Silverstone. Ben Lopard is closer at the end, just 4.5 seconds, with Jeremy Thomas taking P4. P5 goes to Thomas Prado, John Sawyer. Not far behind was Chris Wright and Jesper Swingley across the line, nose to tail. And down in the TCX field, well, we have our class leader now 9 seconds ahead of P2. Bringing it home nice and gently. So we have Skapas off the circuit, having completed their race in P9, Fahit in P10, King in P11, with Nitro rounding the final corner to take P12. As Natalik comes down Wellington Straight, Anthony Chappelle and Jakub Borovic still battling it out for that final podium position. It looks like this is going the way of Borovic, barring some final lap shenanigans. But it is Jan Ilatalo who rounds now the final corner to take the class win here at Silverstone. Will be followed home by Thomas Solanaho for P2. And P3 looking to go the way of Jakub Borovic, who will be followed closely home by his teammate Anthony Victor Chappelle. And the final of the lead lap finishers of the TCX class will be Atta Kalaskan, finishing in P5. Well, thank you very much.